When you get your assigned device, you're going to have questions. Hang on to those questions for me. I pretty much answer them all by our first stop. So again, otherwise we'll be out here till like 2 in the morning. So first thing I'm going to be using is thermal imaging. Why would I want thermal?
For temperature changes.
How so? This is a quiz. You're on the spotlight.
Cool breeze.
Those are cold.
Cold spots.
Yeah,
Yes, that's exactly what we're looking for. So
We're halfway there.
you guys should be able to see me in there, red, orange, and yellow guy. Sorry, Garrett and Brandon, but that does mean I'm the hottest thing inside the picture, just so you guys know. With my bridal parties, that works out really well. And my wife says, "Did you use your bridal party line?" Yes, I did. I use it every night. I don't care who's in the crowd. So anyway, we're literally looking for blue and black spots to move on their own with this guy. So again, cold spots in here are going to be blue and black. The nice thing about this specific camera, it's a FLIR, which means this is exactly what firemen use to actually help save people. This is the real deal. This is not a phone app, just so you know. There's a blue dot bouncing around the screen right now. It's showing us the coldest spot in the frame at that particular moment. So it's kind of helping guide your eye in real time, and when you get your full video back of this guy, of where the coldest area might be. Does that mean that's exactly where I'm going to find the anomalies? Not necessarily. I found plenty of anomalies that were not next to that blue dot, but it is just kind of a guideline. So we are going to keep this guy horizontal all night long, Brandon. So just like I told you guys last night, this is the video where I heard the very smart alecky comment that I did not appreciate. So I'm going to give it to the quiet person who might not say a word all night long. So I had a gentleman last night that he was just, his wife drug him. He didn't want to be here. So he made a very rude comment, and I caught it. I normally don't listen to this audio, but I needed to for some kind of other spirit box. So Brandon, this one's going to go to you, sir. You're going to keep it horizontal just like this. So kind of, hold it with your right hand. You're going to make sure the camera's on your left at all times. I splice all the videos together because we are going to do a few starts and stops. Your starts and stop button is right here. It's a red square, which means it's recording. We are going to leave it on at this point. I will let you know when we're going to cut it off. So that one goes to you, sir. You also look like you have a very steady hand, which means everybody's going to have a nice video to watch, because you really haven't moved a muscle since when we got here. I know, I keep ragging on the poor guy, right? Let's see. Spirit boxes. We're going to be using several different types of spirit boxes tonight. So the reason why is because they all do something a little bit different than the others. So normally, if you're unfamiliar with spirit boxes, this is basically going to create white noise by sweeping through the FM radio stations at a very quick rate. On your TV shows and your YouTube videos, it's basically where your host will give you, what he thinks he heard in the middle of it and slap it on the middle of the screen. We're going to be doing that in real time. And mine is actually, we're going to be using a different method because none of you were trained to listen to white noise for 2 hours at a time, plus all of the history I'm going to give you. Somebody's going to fall asleep. So again, this one is slowed down on purpose. I want the radio chatter to come through. I want you to tell me whatever you hear on the radio chatter from song lyrics, DJs, commercials, that kind of thing. So the reason for that is if you hear buy a Kia today, the word buy might actually mean something. No matter how silly you think you might actually think it might actually be relevant to the space of where we are. Person in history we're talking about, or even something going on with one of us. Happens all the time. This is where I capture probably the most evidence. However, this is probably one of the hardest devices that I have because I'm asking you to use your senses in a way that you're not used to. So the person using this BREA is going to, I'm sorry, I didn't call it BREA. So BREA, you're going to have an earbud in. You're going to be the only person to hear it in real time. So tomorrow morning, everybody else is going to get the recording back. You can mess with the volume as much as you want. It doesn't record any outside noise. Make sure that, some people use just one earbud, so kind of keep that in mind. But again, it's already recording, so I'll show you where the volume button is, and you'll pop an earbud in and get used to how it works. So your volume button is right here. It's a wheel. You'll have to feel for it. And then, of course, you'll have to undo the twist tie for your earbuds. And I don't want earbuds back. Your earwax is your own souvenir, so you get to keep that. Good on you. Marissa's like, I wanted earwax. You get your own earwax, so you can keep that. I'm going to pick on Marissa now, everybody, just so everybody knows. I can switch gears. Oh, man. Here it comes. See why I picked this underneath the tree? Yeah, it'll stop. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. In the event that this stays steady, obviously for more than 15-20 minutes, then obviously we'll probably have to call it a night. And then, of course, obviously we'll talk about reschedules and all of that kind of thing if need be. Just because we're working with electronic equipment, I'm pretty sure none of you are made out of sugar. None of you are going to melt. But however, my equipment will stop working. So, again, we'll kind of keep that in mind. The next spirit box. This one we don't have to listen to. This one works kind of like an obulus, like what you guys normally see on your TV shows if you're used to that. So we're going to see words on the screen from time to time. those words will be saved into a list with timestamps. Last night we had 76 terms show up. That's been about the average, about 75 total, but I'm going to clear them out and start us off fresh. This is a phone app. This is meant to try to scare us, right? 80% of this is going to be BS. It's not going to mean anything. It's going to be garbage. We're going to throw it away. However, you will get the full list back tomorrow. I will highlight the key terms that are relevant to the space, person, one of us. Same principle, and I'll also give you the backlink to be able to verify the information. Your ovuluses that you see on TV, just so everybody kind of has a reference why I like to use this versus that. The ovulus only has 2,048 terms and phrases in it. This has 9,168, 4 times the amount. So again, that's why most of it's garbage, but it does give us an opportunity to see if there's anything actually else going on inside of there. Marissa, the game we're playing with this guy is it coming from a ghost or is it coming from an app? So that's the game we're going to play tonight. I don't want to see every single word that comes up. I'll come to you when I want to see the list and show you how to get to it. So that's the device you'll be using. Stops, we're going to be zipping and unzipping.
I think red and white's right now. I don't know.
This spirit box, Michaela, I think this one's going to be right around. So this one is relatively new to the tour. Works completely different than all of the others. It's going to sweep through the FM and AM radio stations at the same time. It's also going to try to take out the white noise that BREA is hearing. So it's going to try to spit out words only.
Okay.
We're only going to hear about 10 to 12 words out of this tonight total in a 2-hour time frame. This thing has been about 75% accurate so far. Like amazing stuff.
Okay.
So you're the one who asked me for proof. This probably gives us the most proof.
Okay.
It's just very solid.
I didn't ask you for proof. I believe you. I'm just wanted to know what.
See how she's trying to convince me now that ghosts are real, and that's super great. So the only button you need to worry about with this. How you doing?
This is the ghost tour deal.
No, this is ghost hunting.
Ghost hunting.
Yeah. Which tour were you looking
got this one. He's gonna know officially. I'm pretty sure we can have this one. This is actually made for the parking.
I already have all my people.
Oh, do you? All right.
Yeah. So you guys are probably looking for Bulldog. You're gonna go down the street 2 blocks and make a left.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So, lights blinking at the very top. That's so obviously that's uprates. The only button you need to worry about is the mute button. It's on the right hand side. It's the only button there. Obviously it's muted right now, so that way I can kind of get to the rest of these devices. I'll say when it's safe to unmute. Let's see. Left. Got a whole big Santa Claus bag of stuff in here. What else I want to go over? Garrett, you look like you need something very technical. You told me you were into the history portion of things, so I'm going to give you something very techy, so that way you don't have to listen, and that way you can focus on the stories. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So, normally, you guys would normally see this kind of stuff on television, right? The little blinky lights that measures electromagnetic fields. Yeah, child's toys. So, we're going with a digital version. It's way more accurate, and it goes way higher. So, 3 different functions on this guy. The top one is the same as the blinky lights I just put in my bag. Anything above 2.5, I want to know what's going on. Second set of numbers below that is ambient temperature. Brandon finds something on his camera, you and I can debunk it or prove it pretty quickly based on the yellow probe right here at the top. The last thing that it has a REM pod, basically a motion sensor. The antenna I just pulled out, if something gets close to it, it's going to go off. I'm not touching it right now. The closer it gets, the higher the pitch, different color schemes in there. We're going to talk about that more at our next location. So, focus on your red screen for right now. Yes. Why? Because this one's not going to record, so you are really on the spotlight. So you're going to have the same device that BREA has, only yours will not record. So I'm going to have to manually write down everything you hear in real time. I will only be writing down things that I will find that are relevant to the space, person, one of us. But again, earbud, volume button is right here. It's the wheel, so get used to that. Because you guys like flip-flop places all over, I wanted to make sure like there was enough things going on, like where you guys didn't have the same thing. So again, I don't want the earbuds back. Your earwax is gross, so you can have it. All right, guys, go have fun. Let me know what happens. No, okay. So Brandon's in charge. He's going to be gone for the first 10 minutes. So
Trust Brandon with my life at this point.
all right, so hopefully the rain will hold off. So between things that you guys hear in real time, yes, I carry a little notebook with me. I'm a little nerdy writer guy, so that way I can put more notes inside your analysis tomorrow morning. And of course, give you more links to all of these different histories. So let's talk about why we started here. But you guys are going to make me talk all night because I'm pretty sure it's my job, so I need some water first. If you haven't noticed, I'm not from Charleston. I don't talk slow, and I don't actually have an accent. So, am I correct in saying you two are from Tennessee? People from Tennessee don't talk. No, I'm kidding. So, I look at your area codes. I'm a jerk like that. I need to know where my people are coming from. All right, so Big John's behind me. And that happens, by the way, all the time with people trying to stop us saying, oh, is this my tour? No, I already know who my people are. So, Big John's behind me. This place is haunted. Of course, that's why we started here. It used to be owned by a football player. His name was Big John Kennedy. Gee, why did they name it Big John's Tavern? Because he owned it. Let's go with that. He played for the 1947 New York Giants. This was his place, and he used to sit in the back of the bar, and he would let the bartender know if the cadets coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to drink. And one night, two guys come in, they're not old enough to drink. His bartender throws them out. They leave pretty angry, and they come back the next night, and they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on. He slams down his beer, he gets up, and just starts pounding these guys into the floor, just beating the hell out of them. A couple of gunshots go off. John gets grazed in the neck, and the bullet lands behind him in the wall. After being shot, John gets up, goes back to the bar, tells the bartender, get him another beer, two guys on the floor, an ambulance. John's been the only one that's been shot, by the way. So, irony of the story, John's the only one that got shot, and normally when I say that this building is haunted, you normally think that somebody died here with some major tragedy. This just happened to be his place. So what's haunting the place? The bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. People that sit in the front of this bar tend to get a little queasy, nauseous, or heady. I bring this up on purpose. You will be, fingers crossed, dealing with paranormal activity tonight, and I do not know how it's going to affect any of you. If anybody feels any of those symptoms, I need to know immediately so we can move the whole group and get that person to safety. Is that fair? Yeah, I don't play around with this. Like, it's a big deal to me. So that's probably the scariest thing I will tell you all night long, just so you guys know, because we're dealing with actual history. Creepy history, but that's literally when it's your own health, it's scary stuff. So, even if they, by the way, if they filled in that hole with this new renovation of Big John's we're looking at, that means Big John's blood is literally, like, encaptured into this building. So that's why people still have a little bit of headache and nausea. I have guests that have dinner there all the time, sit in the front, they can't finish their dinner. It happens all the time. So, same building. Let's talk about something else other than our own health, right? So, have you guys been taking any other, like, history tours in Charleston at all? No? Nothing at all? Wow, this is, like, the only thing you're doing in Charleston? I'm either honored or worried. Like, one of the two. Every tour will tell you about a big earthquake that we had here in 1886. It's a big deal for us because it's South Carolina. We're not supposed to have earthquakes. This building is allegedly where the first death occurred from that earthquake. The white mantle you see in the middle of the building also rests on the front, on the east bay side. They say a piece of it broke off, struck somebody in the back of the head, and killed them. You can see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street in the middle of the night. I said apparently and allegedly a lot with that story. Why? Because I don't have any proof. It's just a great segue so nobody's thinking about getting sick on the tour. So, yes, that's a joke. You all laughed. Good job. See, keep it lighthearted. That's what this is all about. Are you guys all ready to go something? All right, let's do this. What about the two of you? They're quiet, too. Yes. All right, we're going to go this way. I feel bad, like I know that whole group, and because you guys showed up and I got started right away, I feel like I didn't get a chance to know you guys, but we're going to chat more throughout the night. So, welcome to basically, like, well, first I want everybody to kind of think of your time with me as kind of a ghost hunting 101 course. Like, we're going to see a little bit of everything tonight. I'm going to touch on various paranormal subjects. This space here is so I can show 10 people how to use their devices better. So they're already in your hands, this way you can kind of visually see what's going on. This is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides, right? So this is the big red barn. The only history here is really simple, and I do it that way just to prove a point. The only history I could find on the place is this is the same red barn that had horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston, 1860s and 1920s, roughly. So, whenever I'm giving you the history of a location, I will always do my best to slow down on specific keywords that I normally hear or see in that specific location. Big John's would have been 47, New York, Giants, John, anything relatable to football or a tavern of some sort. Over here, I just slowed down on delivery, milk, eggs, anything relatable to a stable. So let's talk about those spirit boxes. How many do I have in play tonight? So I got 1, 2, ooh, I got 4. Ooh, only 2 people don't have spirit boxes. This is gonna be a weird night. I have 6 different spirit boxes, just so you know, and a 7th one on the way. Different style altogether. Like that one's a little crazy. Like it's like a digital Ouija board. I think it's nuts. But anyway, so I know I talk a lot. You guys gotta shut me up every once in a while. See why I look for the quiet ones, so that way I can like talk their ear off all night long. This is not television. This is not a Ouija board. This is not. What's the first question everybody wants to ask a Ouija board?
Shit scares me. I'm not in for it.
Okay, well, think of a Ouija board.
Is anyone here?
Is anybody here? So if somebody answers no, that means somebody's here. So we are not going to be asking yes or no questions all night long. We're going to be asking very specific questions. If you're a skeptic or not, you came here for paranormal proof of some sort. You're not going to get it out of yes or no questions. That is a guarantee. So we are here for the specifics. In a space like this, I would normally tell spirit box teams to actually use your spirit box to ask questions you already know the answers to. For example, if somebody's here, tell me what color the big red barn is. Obviously, we're looking, because Marissa actually has a word list, and listening for the word red. However, most of you are listening to song lyrics and DJs to convey messages back to you. The word red might not be available. Fire truck, blood, heart. Those 3 things are specifically red. I would actually take that as an acceptable answer. What color's the big red barn? Blood. Okay, cool, got it. It's definitely red. However, most of the night I'm going to ask that they're basically verify what's going on around us with 2 different devices or 2 instances from the same device to verify what's actually going on. Another example. Let's say Marissa's word list has the word art on it. I know history is boring and sort of explanations.
Sorry.
Let's say you have the word art, and Georgia actually hears the number 40 on her spirit box. Individually, those 2 terms don't mean anything. You put them together, Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. Do you guys see how we're going to be putting all these clues together all night long? These are not going to be full-blown conversations. This is about learning about these people and their history. So I think spirit boxes, you kind of get a better gist of how you're going to be using them. So let's talk about the camera. So first and foremost, Brandon, people do not like their cars to be filmed. People don't like to be filmed in general. However, when I do like an Andy's coming, you're just going to basically not look like a YouTuber and kind of casually hold a cell phone. So kind of keep that in mind. Some of the spaces we're going to go to tonight, there will be parked cars. So I'll just reiterate it several times so that none of us are getting in trouble for anything that we're not actually being blamed for. You're going to try to do 2 things for us tonight. You're going to try to keep one of us in view. The reason why is because we're going to be the warmest thing out here. Even though it's a nice, warm, humid night, we're still going to be 97 to 99 degrees. If Georgia goes over 100 degrees, you need to let me know so I can kick her off the tour and she can go feel better later on. So, because you're going to be the only person that can actually see that. So the reason why is that gives us the array of color. Much easier to find those cold spots if there's a high differences in temperatures in what's inside the frame. So kind of get the meaning of that. I want the warmest thing, which is going to be us. The second thing you're going to try to do is keep the sky out of view. Reason for that is because that blue dot that's bouncing around your screen is going to default to the blue sky looking for a surface. And it's just going to be pointless if it's pointing up in the air trying to figure out what the coldest spot is. So some of those spaces we're going to tonight are going to be impossible to do that. Just do your best. So it's the only thing I can ask. Nice steady movements out of the camera. The only thing I haven't gone on with is the REM pod with yours, Garrett. So we're going to talk about yours after the next history. Have you seen any readings come up on your device yet?
When you handed it to me, it got up to like a 0.2, 0.3.
Okay, so remember 2.5 is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Up to a 1.1 is natural from the Earth. In certain spaces, you might just be out of the game, and that's part of the reason why I gave that to you, is because you're more for the history for us tonight. So with that said, it's going to be because of the parking meters, it's going to be because of the wiring, the crosswalks. There might be some things I'm like, yeah, sorry, dude, just shut it off. It's pointless if you know this location. But over here, there's no reason why we should have any reading. So every once in a while, we'll get a reading over here, and then normally we stay for a minute or 2 to see if it's going to go up any higher. But I think everybody has a pretty good gist on their devices. Your word list, just so you know, when I want to see the list, I got to get the word light already. Hit that little white scroll to the next of it. Of course, Olivia shows up tonight. I had an Olivia on my tour last night, and something like one of her, she was very nervous. So the word nerve showed up and worried. And I told her mom, I'm like, we'll see if Olivia's name actually pops up tonight and see what actually goes on. And it never did. So I like the word nominee, but I'm going to talk about that later on. That actually probably showed up pretty early, I'm guessing, like right after I handed it to you. Oh, that's okay. You'll learn to pay attention. All right, let's go deep dive into history other than football players and ponies, all right? All right, let's go
When
this
should I
way.
put my earpiece in?
You should leave it in all night. Just play with the volume.
Okay, where's my mute button?
That's up to you.
You told me you
Oh, as far your mute button.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely let you know you definitely don't want to do that here. The horses don't like the noise.
Got it.
That's why everybody else has an earbud. But your like auto noise canceling portion of your device does not work with earbuds.
Got it.
I don't know why. I don't know if it's something.
Interesting. You should tell me.
So welcome to your first beautiful space in Charleston. You're in a parking lot. Congratulations. This place actually used to be something. Obviously, Brandon, I'm going to be focused on this location just because of the amount of cars in here. So try not to be like filming somebody's car for too long. Just nice slow movements. Just keep moving while we're in this space and I separate everybody. So I pull this over to this very tight corner, obviously because there's a lot of cars. Normally this back portion is pretty open where we can actually spread out with my groups of 10, but that's okay. We'll be able to spread out here shortly.
Sorry, I think I fucked it up.
What'd you do?
I meant to turn the volume, but I think I pressed
She
it.
broke it. You're supposed to show her. Okay.
Sorry.
There you go.
Thank you.
You are.
Don't touch anything.
Just the volume. I'm kidding. You guys cannot break anything. It's perfectly fine. Even when I told you I have the camera out for repair or replacement, it was the manufacturer's problem, not something that happened on the tours. If it happens on a tour, I can usually fix it right away. But anyway, so what is this space? This used to be the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion site. So their mansion sat in the front of this lot where all of those cars are parked in the front. Eliza's garden was lined up with the Five Church restaurant over there and came all the way across. And we are standing where the servant and slave quarters were for the home. So I always like to give you the layout of each space based on what my knowledge base of it is. And yes, this back portion of it was actually much bigger. So like this median, this is something that they put in. So it actually went back much further. But we are going to stay within the confines of the walls after I'm done giving you the history of the space. Spirit boxes, all four of you, I will not be giving you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the red barn. You will get the answers from your spirit boxes, and yes, I will withhold information purposely, so that way everybody has a genuine experience. Is that also fair? Yeah, Michaela's like, yeah, this guy's a real deal. I'm gonna shut up now. Stop heckling the poor guy. I'm just kidding. You're not. I love when you guys get on my toes. That's okay. I can spit it right back. Garrett's like, yeah, you can. So where was I? Oh, Eliza and Charles. So they had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's three different Charleses, in case you guys lost track. The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. It's a pretty big deal for us South Carolinians, but nobody hates politics more than me. So we're going to move on. So let's talk about Eliza, which is way cooler anyway. Eliza married Charles at a young age, according to today's standards, not the colonial times that she came from. If you're going to ask her how old she was when she got married, you are not going to hear numbers like 12 and 14, just so you know. Think of today's standards as far as whatever you're listening for. I bring this up because Charles was over double her age when they got married. So it's kind of an anomalous number then, pretty big age gap now, even then. So she married Charles because her father over in England thought he was dying, and he wanted to see all of his children one last time. She didn't think he was dying, so she stayed put. This is 1744. There's no such thing as getting married for a green card or for citizenship like what we have now, because we're not even a country yet. So basically, she did marry this guy out of love, and even after Charles's death, she remained a widow. Remember, he's over double her age. He went first. So that's how the numbers work. But Dad didn't die right away. So he starts sending her gifts, apologetically, from England to this space. One of the gifts that he sent her were the plant seeds of indigo. You guys have been in town for at least an hour. You've probably seen the word indigo somewhere along one of our signs or hotels or wherever you've been. It started right here as far as it being capitalized on. Indigo was already here from our Gullah culture, basically slaves straight from Africa. They were agriculturists. She had to learn from them on what to do with these seeds because she had no clue. When she figured it out and experimented with it here in our weird weather, because it's not always hot here, she moves it to a plantation just north of here, calls her dad and says rice plantations are going downhill, we can make a killing with this indigo. Now we have a businesswoman during colonial times. Something absolutely unheard of. So, that's Eliza's business. Let's get into the weird stuff, because that's why all of you are here. You didn't come here to hear about Eliza's business. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles, back to back. Same year, 5 months apart. First wife, Eliza, dies in January of 1744, and in May of 1744, the second Eliza marries Charles. Ironically, both Elizas have a maiden name that starts with the letter L. That's all I'm going to give you. So, I will also take note. Actually, I'm not going to take note. I want to see if it actually pops up tonight. Today's an anniversary of something with this particular family. So we're going to see if it actually pops up. And today's the specific date. That's why I'm very curious on what's going to happen tonight. The mansion's not here anymore. You can ask what happened to the mansion. If you get an answer, ask what year that happened. Notice none of these are yes and no questions, right? Because we're going to go after specific details. The children, I told you there's at least one. His name was Charles, right? Signer of the Constitution. There's more. You can ask how many and what their names are. That's it. Why? There's a tragedy. If you poke the bear about that tragic instance with that particular child, all activity will stop. Garrett, have you had any readings so far?
I was up to a 0.4.
0.4. Okay, that's still nothing. So in the event he was getting decent readings, those would pretty much go down to 0.1s and 0.2s, and if you guys poke the bear too hard, we need to go because we're not going to get anything else. So don't poke the bear and ruin everything for everybody else. That's the whole point of that. As far as Eliza's death, that's where she's really open. You can ask her how old she was when she died. You can ask her what she died from, where she's buried, and what U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. If that doesn't tell you how important this young lady was, I don't know what will. So, again, we are going to spread out in this lot. We are not going to go near any vehicles, including in between them. Most of these vehicles are going to belong to employees of people down here, and they sometimes take their breaks in their car. I think somebody caught on that I was doing ghost hunting in this lot, and somebody put like a scary clown sitting in the passenger seat.
Oh no.
And it was actually rotating one night, like very, very slowly, because I watched it. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then one of my guests was like, I think that's an actual person. I'm like, it's probably somebody on break just taking a nap with a clown mask on. Just we'll kind of see what happens. I don't see that particular vehicle because it actually parks along this side. But I am going to keep Garrett behind for just a few moments. But everybody else, you're already recording, Brandon, so you're good to go. And definitely, have you had any other words show up that you saw? Let's go ahead and hit the word list. What were the last 3 terms you've had?
Oh, I have now.
It's because you were focused on me.
It's like mouth.
Your newest words will always be at the top.
And
Mouth.
over
40. I'm just saying it.
You heard 40?
I heard 40.
Okay.
Hello.
Those were double, and I know that showed up over there.
Same.
Things do bleed over. So we had the word double show up, and it showed up while we were over at the Big Red Barn lot. Certain spaces, it will bleed over a little bit, and you're going to find that as we kind of go throughout the night. Am I excited about that? That would be like clue number 1. Now I need to know double what. So it's not double 40, just so you know. I am going to write down 40 because you actually heard something. But at the same token, from this point forward, whatever you guys hear that's relevant is what I'll be writing down. Otherwise, everything you hear, I'm going to have pages and pages and pages to be typing up that aren't relevant.
How do we know what's relevant?
You'll have to tell me what you hear, and I know the histories.
Okay, so we
And
tell
if
you everything.
Pretty much. I'm only going to be writing down.
I got it.
So again, even if you hear buy a Kia today, tell me you heard buy a Kia today. Your device won't give you that much, but we'll see. All right, Garrett, stay behind. Everybody else, let's spread out. I'll be following up with all of you and writing down notes based on what we're actually finding, what's going on. Describe, I like that too. All right, so unfortunately, I'm not seeing any readings on that.
Yes. You know how you told me to tell him if anybody goes over 100? You're going over 100.
What am I?
You're getting like 105.
Why did you tell me that?
Both of you were kind of like going between 90 and 105. So I guess it didn't really matter.
Am I still 105?
You're going back and forth, though. You're a little higher now.
What am I now?
106, 107, a little lower in the 90s.
Am I possessed? pushed me.
Hmm.
About pushed me. What am I now?
Hmm.
What am I now?
You're staying mostly in the 90s now.
I'm back down?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think telling you that made you hotter.
Made me hotter?
Yeah, on the thing.
What am I now?
No, telling you that you were doing. Never mind.
Corridor. Look around. Don't just do me and like do everything while I everything, but like move. You see anything?
Mhm. Well, yeah, but they're mostly cars.
Huh?
Yeah, but they're mostly car windows.
I will just do it. Don't fall over nothing.
Hmm.
Don't fall over nothing. Where can we go? Where's that God?
Hmm.
That God. You're recording me like I'm a famous person.
Well, you want me to walk away and go someone else?
You should be careful.
That's not the first time. I'm not sure what you said.
I said, is your arm tired?
Yes.
Alright.
I don't record cars.
How are we doing on your guys' stuff? I know yours is kind of like, it's not always exciting in the moments, but when we get that video back and I actually capture anomalies in it, that's when it's like, holy cow, super, super exciting stuff. So, whose idea was it to come to this? Okay, I was gonna say, because you guys seem both very, very quiet people. So, it's like, with my quiet folks, it's like you guys are the ones that are scaring me. So,
I get it from her.
That's okay. What other words have come up? Anything crazy?
I had pushed me, corridor, God, coming.
Spread. Okay. Yeah, still nothing I'm excited about. Where I'm like, holy cow. Especially based on what everybody else is hearing. So far, they haven't given me like a ton yet, but obviously we're just getting started. So, we're only going to be here for like another 5 minutes or so before we kind of see what's going on, if there's actual activity going on here. Garrett hasn't given me any ratings yet, so we'll kind of see what's going on here. I do hear it, but 9 times out of 10 is from him moving around. And I'll explain more about that going forward. And you two have taken ghost tours in the past, right? This is a lot different, isn't it? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, but I know your hands get tired.
My thumb is starting to hurt.
But like, do you hear anything in that?
Did you tell him that I was one of those?
It's doing that with everyone. That it's going up and down through the 90s and 100s.
Cats in a really creepy place.
obviously very, very vague stuff coming through tonight. What I am going to tell you, go ahead and mute that for me. And definitely turn off the red on just for distraction purposes. Today is the anniversary of Eliza's death, May 26th, 1793. Just so you guys know, we did hear the number 1, we did hear the word death. So obviously those are clues that signify something might else be in there. That's where the review comes into play. But I'm going to go over all of the answers for you. Brandon, you could go ahead and cut that video, hit that square for me. I heard anniversary come out of it. So I'm really writing that down, and I'll explain more about that later, because that might be relevant to something completely off topic. Have we heard anything else? Talk to me about what you guys heard along the way.
I think I heard the name Ben. I thought I heard Ben.
So, you guys want to know why we're here? We're first off in a quiet space, which is why we're next to a hotel. Why I should be first. So if that person starts walking around half naked, it's not a anything planned that I did. Because somebody is in that room, I can see. So when we crossed that last crosswalk, which was really nice, we had all walking lanes, right? That's where the original Charlestown walls used to be. So Charleston used to be called Charlestown, the walled city. You are standing on one of the very first streets we ever had. So we're going to talk more about this. The gentleman passed through real quick. So this being one of the first streets we ever had, people used to live here. I have the full list of residents of every single person that's ever lived here. It's not a lengthy list, because there wasn't a whole lot of people that lived here at any one time. We're talking like 2 to 5 people, that's about it. The names are commonly here, Benjamin and John. So, the weird thing is I normally only hear those names on a 6 to 7 week loop. You are in week 1, 2 of that loop, which is why I wasn't truly expecting the name Ben or John to show up. So, the fact that you heard it is kind of an anomaly by itself. Here's why I think, well, let me tell you about Benjamin and John first. They both lived here in 1801. I don't know anything specific about them. I don't have any specific instance about 1801, about what happened in this alley, and why I keep getting the same names every 6 to 7 weeks. So, no true significance. Every once in a while we'll get a third name. That name is Jane. So, you would think pretty plain Jane name, but it's not something you would commonly hear on a radio. Neither is Ben or Benjamin. So, John, yes, we would hear that all the time. But John will give us his last name, Johnson. John Johnson was his full name. There were 4 different Johns that lived here in a 60-year period. So again, it's just interesting that I get the same 2 names, Ben and John Johnson, and sometimes Jane. They all lived here in 1801. That's 3 out of 5 people that lived here. So, here's why I think that's happening. You're standing on Belgian blocks. We are told that Belgian blocks are actually made out of granite. And I'm studying right now what they are truly made out of. Why? Because put your device on the ground and tell me what numbers you see. We're going to leave it there for just a moment and watch it climb. So Darren, it is your job to watch it climb and tell me the highest number it gets to. Granite is not supposed to hold an electrical charge at all. It is not a magnet. There's no magnetism in that brick whatsoever. Oh, it's actually not moving off of 0.8. Okay. So, just the other night, we had an 8.7. The night before that, we had an 11.9. Again, pretty damn close to the reading that we just got at the Pinckney Mansion site. So, granite comes straight from the earth, just like limestone. You would think that it's going to hang on to some type of charge, because it's natural and from the earth. But the whole gist of this is that it's part of the stone tape theory. Certain stones are said when they're in the same space for a long period of time, like these ones that were laid in, I think, 1739 is the oldest year that they say. For a couple of 100 years, that it'll actually hang on to the consciousness of memories and spit them back to us like we're watching a movie over and over and over again. That's why I think I'm getting these names every 6 to 7 weeks. So, again, the fact that we're not getting anything tonight is an anomaly by itself, because the past 2 nights, I've definitely gotten a pretty decent rating out of it. You can go ahead and pick up your device so that way it doesn't get kicked around. But again, very interesting that there's nothing going on with that at all tonight. Like, I would expect 0.2 to 0.7, maybe 0.8, just because of the natural from the earth. But that's the reason why I think we're getting all of these, different names over and over and over again for the past 3 years. So, before people lived here, the Freemasons had a Masonic lodge here, hence the name Lodge Alley. Do we get terms around the Freemasons? Of course we do. We'll get Freemason, Mason, and yes, the term Illuminati has shown up here 6 times last year and twice so far this year. First off, who the hell is saying the word Illuminati on the radio? Second, why am I only hearing it when I'm in this space? We will also get terms like symbols that show up here. Again, it's just relative to the space. And that was actually before people lived here. They did do an archaeological dig on these bricks, and they found some of these people's clothing and tools and silverware, classified them as lower class people. Makes complete sense to me. Why? Because the other side of the Charlestown Wall was across the street on East Bay Street, which means the smell of low tide would be coming through here quite often. The rich of Charleston are not going to put up with the smell of low tide. If you've been down to the Battery and seen those giant mansions, you probably noticed that they're at a specific angle with the skinny side facing the street. It's that way for two reasons. First off, it keeps the smell of low tide from coming in. We have piazzas here in Charleston, which means your front porch is on the side with a front door on it. It helps keep the smell of low tide from entering the home. You open up your second story window and it allows the cool breeze from the water to come in. Hot air rises, cool air drops. You have old school air conditioning. The second reason they're skinny in the front is you were taxed based on how much street side you took. So, skinny your house, less taxes. The Pinky Mansion site that we just discussed in the picture I showed you was broad against the street. So the big part of the house was taking up a lot of street side. First off, they were indigo farmers, so they had a lot of money. Second, most of the Pinklings were politicians of some sort. And they're outside the city walls, so if they're paying taxes at all, they didn't care. They had the money to show it, and they just wanted to show off their beautiful house. They're bragging rights. So again, that's why those houses are set up that way. So I lollygag in this space on purpose, because again, it's not a space where we can actually ask questions. I'm waiting to see what's going to show up on these recordings, but I'm going for it tomorrow morning. The next space we're going to go to is another alley. However, I can't take you all the way through it. You want to know why? I've been kicked out. You guys all have the blinky lights and noisemakers and all of that, and yes, it's considered residential at the end. So when I first started doing these tours, I got caught. I will tell you more about that at our next space, but I'm just going to let you know we are going to start running into those other tours where there's like 20 plus people in there. We just stay out of their way. They don't know what we're doing. They're not real big fans of what we're doing out here because I take a lot of their business. And again, this is kind of a slower night for me. It's nice not to be fully packed. I have a nice personal, intimate group with you guys. But with that, I tell the story outside the alley because it still stirs up a lot of activity, and hopefully, like it normally happens, we'll get a lot of terms wrapped around that specific alley through the rest of our time together because we'll be in the relative vicinity, kind of like Big John's to the Pinky Mansion site. So again, we're going to be cutting through a neighborhood as we get to that next spot. So it's definitely going to be stop recording as we exit. So continue recording till we get to the edge, then shut it off, and then I'll position you for the next alley to make sure we have a good shot. MICAELA, you'll be good until, again, we get to the edge of it. I told you to be here just because we're standing still. But everybody else, as far as spirit boxes, definitely be looking for, if you had anything show up at all. You haven't really shouted anything out like, holy cow.
Fish, once, confident, spit, oxygen, ideal, Eliza. I had we are and then alone right after it. That was weird.
Do you want to know what stands out to me?
What?
Fish. Most of the people that lived here were mariners. If not, they were coopers. Coopers were barrel makers. So we do get the word barrel that will show up from time to time on your word list too. So we have fish. So we'll see if the word barrel shows up somewhere, or the word Cooper, name Cooper, those kind of things. So just kind of keep that in mind of things I'm looking for. Again, I do withhold information purposely, so that way I can get you excited, like, hey, I'm excited about fish. I do like We Are Alone. We'll kind of see what comes up out of that. It's very vague. I don't know who we is, but we're going to find out if something else pops up along with it. We've heard anything else while we've been standing here?
Jackson.
Jackson. That's another thing. I like that one. Not to this space. The next one. Well, technically closer to the next one. But I'm going to see if Jackson is actually on that name list, like the census list that I have of this alley. If not, I know exactly what it's related to, but I am going to wait for that secondary clue. You have something too?
Oh, it was just like you were talking, and it was, I don't know, it was fun. It's just fun.
Mine said that earlier too.
Like he was just talking about, oh, I know, like on the next thing, and it said, like as soon as you said that.
Yeah, so I'm going to wait to see if the other clue with Jackson actually shows up before I reveal what it actually pertains to. Alright, let's go see what we can find what's going on at this next alley. about the same size as the large alley that we just walked through, and again, we're only allowed down halfway. But I will tell you why I got booted out of there after I give you the history of this place. So this is Philadelphia Alley. That's easy for me to remember because that's where Liza's buried. So it used to be called Duelers Alley. This is where the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston, kind of like 10 paces, turn and shoot kind of duels. But we all tell the story of one specific duel because we can actually prove that it happened. So here's how the story goes. Doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. Do you guys see why I'm excited about medication now? So he moves down here from Rhode Island because his fiancée Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney that's helping her out with all of this cash. The attorney thinks the doctor is just after her money, so he tells Amanda to get rid of the doctor. He comes to Charleston to prove that he's not. As he's coming into town, the coachman that was bringing him in set him up to be robbed and killed. So it wasn't a very good start to his stay in Charleston. Somebody walking by, his name was Ralph Isaacs. Now, I tell this story a lot differently than the other tours because you're ghost hunting. I give you a lot more specific details. Ralph Isaacs I stop on because he has the same initials as to where the doctor came from. Rhode Island, Ralph Isaacs. R.I. shows up here all the time, but I just gave you the two main characters of the story, Ralph and the doctor. I just need the second clue so I know who it belongs to, but it does show up here often. Anyway, Ralph says, dude, you don't want to stay here. This guy's got a gunman inside. He's going to try to kill you and take all your money. He's like, I got some friends at 59 Church Street. You can rent a room from them and you'll be safe. It's on a good part of town. So the doctor takes him up on the offer and the two become friends. But the doctor's practice starts to take off. He's making his own money now. Amanda's moving down soon. He's doing pretty well for himself. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. Every haunted city you guys will go to has a cliched whistling ghost. Ours just happens to be a doctor. And yes, do I have proof of this? Yes, which I will tell you about at the end. So, him and Ralph go see plays together, but because the doctor makes so much money, which is more than Ralph, he gets better seats. They can't sit next to each other. So they talk about these plays on the way home. One night, after seeing William III from Shakespeare, and no tour guide can tell you which theater they were coming from, because we had dozens, they start arguing over the new actress. The doctor thought she was fantastic, but Ralph, not so much. So the argument gets a little heated when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. So they go their separate ways. So Ralph is actually from here, so he actually puts an ad in the newspaper. He tells the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. So the doctor sees this ad in the paper that everybody else saw and rebuttals with, let's go to Duelers Alley. We're going to settle this. So they come down, they take their 10 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. He just wanted to have the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which is often what happened at a duel. However, Ralph still has his one shot. Sorry, Garrett. He puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. The doctor doesn't die either, but he drops to the ground, but his friends pick him up. They carry him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. He's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed it out himself. So, the ghost campfire part of this story is that as you're walking through here, you could hear the whistles from the doctor. I used to take my tours all the way through there, and it was all about the voice recorders before we started using the earbuds with the spirit boxes. So it was all about what you're going to find the next day. Do I have some whistles I can't debunk? Absolutely. Do I have songs over here that whistle that I can't debunk? Absolutely. I will get the Guns N' Roses song Patience because it has whistling in it. I get the Maroon 5 song of Moves Like Jagger. It has whistling in it. It shows up here all the time. I want you to keep in mind if you do go down there on your own and you turn on the voice recorder from your phones, because you can go down there without a tour guide, you're just a tourist at that point, turn on your voice recorders, but keep in mind every local knows this story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street on the other side, yes, we heard Queen earlier, was that you? I thought so. From Queen Street on the other side, throws a whistle down the alley, me included. Every single night, we're going to end up there. My garage is right there. I have to pass Dueling Alley every single night, so I throw a whistle down there every night because I've been booted out and I want to mess with the other tours. So that's the whole point of why I do it. When my daughter's on the tour, we actually race to see who's going to throw the whistle first. So she's 15, she's on the tour a lot, she knows the equipment and the story, so she helps you guys out, especially when I have my full groups of 10. So, let's talk about why I got booted out of there. That's the fun part of the story, right? How Nick got in trouble. At the end of this alley, the bricks are older. Why? Because this alley didn't always come all the way through to Cumberland Street where we're standing right now. So it wasn't all the way through. So those bricks on the other side are sun-dried bricks from slave children. I used to point out those bricks at the other end because there is a handprint from a slave child at the other end and fingerprint swipes from the kids that had to literally turn those bricks hour by hour to bake them in the sun. It's a matter of showing how far we've come. However, everybody wants to put a spirit box or an EMF meter near it. That kid is not staring at that damn brick in the afterlife. I treat it the same way I do a grave. It's just a matter of showing off history. However, November 26th of 2020, my entire group of 10 people were huddled around one brick trying to get a reading, and I'm like, guys, we gotta keep moving. It's outside a gentleman's dining room window, this beautiful mansion at the end of this alley. He was not very happy with me. So he came out screaming. My daughter thought it was great because Dad's getting yelled at. Yeah, so we moved on. November 27th of that year was Thanksgiving. I had worked in retail for over 20 years. I'm finally gonna take a Thanksgiving off. So I took Thanksgiving off. The next day, November 28th, I get a phone call from the tourism office with a complaint asking me to either reroute my tour or go down halfway like everybody else. And that's where I came up with, it's not fair to y'all that I take out every night to try to work around those large groups. So I decided I'm gonna reroute. I'm not a pirate person, just not a thing. I'm a vampire guy through and through. I didn't even want to tell the story, I didn't believe in the story. But I told my team that night, kind of a little bit of what happened. We're gonna wing it and see what happens. I don't know a whole lot, but we're gonna see. Tickets were much cheaper back then. Can't wing it now. So anyway, I take my team up there. Before I tell them what we're gonna be discussing, somebody throws the name Anne on a spirit box. So I'm like, okay, I did not tell them we're gonna be discussing female pirate Anne Bonny. So I'm like, all right, we'll kind of see what happens. So again, I'm not the believer of this pirate story. We get up there and somebody else hears the number 300. I'm like, yeah, that's weird. I don't know what that means. The next morning, I'm doing the research. We were there on November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300-year anniversary of her trial, which is why I keep taking you guys back there night after night. However, it is a hit-or-miss location. If we're going to get anything, it's going to be a lot. If we don't get anything, it'll be silence. I hate to end a tour that way, but again, it is what it is. Again, I told you from the beginning, the ghosts are not on the payroll. I can't make them do anything. So kind of take that for what it's worth. What's going to happen from here is we're going to go up to St. Philip's Church and Cemetery. You can go ahead and stop your recording now. We'll see if anything pops up out of that. Medical center, so that's pretty exciting stuff. That's the second time with medication and medical center, so that's kind of verification all on its own. But let's talk about why we're here. So we're going to be looking at that little tiny building over there with the crosses on it. I want to point out that those are not crosses. You're going to love this piece, by the way, if you're interested about this. This is all history. Those crosses are basically earthquake bolts. If you don't know what earthquake bolts are, they're basically turnbuckles. So if we have another earthquake like what we did in 1886, you can turn those turnbuckles, and it's supposed to straighten the building back up again. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. The reason I point these ones out specifically is because these are the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston put in, because it's the oldest government building in South Carolina. It was finished in 1713. Notice I said government building, which means that's obviously we have other buildings older than that. So we are here because this building is familiar to the ghosts we're going to be hunting, right? So it's kind of like using a toy to attract a child ghost. More history on the building so you kind of get a gist of what I love to look at. That parking garage over there is where the Charlestown wall stood that I mentioned earlier back at Lodge Alley. It went up Cumberland Street and just past the powder magazine started going south towards the Battery. It puts the powder magazine pretty close to the corners of the actual four walls. Reason being is because they want to keep it fortified away from the water in case pirate ships or Revolutionary warships try to attack it from the water. The further away it is, the harder the cannonballs are going to have to reach it. If they do penetrate the walls that are 35 inches thick, by the way, it's going to blow up the gunpowder. There is sand in the roof of that building still that was put there in the early 1700s that if it gets penetrated by a cannonball, the sand is supposed to go up with the explosion and then fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. That's another great idea that doesn't work. But this building's never been attacked, so that sand from the 1700s is still there because sand does not disintegrate. Just an interesting fun fact for y'all. So, the building took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government? Small building, 10 years? No, not at all. I'll answer for you. But right in the middle of its construction is where our story actually begins. So follow me, there's a lot of twists. 1708, a young lady named Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland. She's with her father and his mistress. The mistress is her mother. Are you guys with me so far? Okay, the three of them are running away from his wife. Just how angry was she? You got to get on a boat and get the hell out of the country. Just saying. And I make sure I talk slow on that one, just because if I say it too fast in my normal speech, everyone's like, what did you just say? I'm like, hang on, let me re-explain. So anyway, they land in Georgetown, just north of here, between us and Myrtle Beach. Dad buys a plantation, but Mom dies pretty quickly, which means he has to send young Anne down here to Charlestown to sell anything from the plantation to keep things afloat. Anne, back home in Ireland, kind of a badass. They say she actually killed one of her servants with a knife to the belly, just so you guys know. She was like 10 or 12 years old when that happened. So just want to give you that mentality in the back of your minds as I'm going through the rest of the story. We're going to fast forward. The building's done in 1713. Pirates are coming through town in 1715. Anne is about 16, 17 years old at this time, and she falls in love pretty quickly. First guy she falls in love with, James Bonnet. See why I'm excited about James now? We're going to get the rest of them too. That's guy number 1. Yes, I'm going to keep tally because there's quite a few. So James Bonnet, Dad is a filthy pirate. Dad doesn't approve, obviously. So they run away to Jamaica, they get married. Anne Cormac becomes Anne Bonny, your most famous female pirate of the Golden Age. Her career started obviously right here in Charlestown. So when she gets down there, this guy is not the swashbuckling, rum-drinking Captain Jack Sparrow that she was hoping for. This guy is a privateer, which basically means he's a spy for the British. He's basically ratting out his own men, and that's who she wanted to marry. He's a coward. A few years later, she falls in love again. This guy's name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. We're going to call him Jack through the rest of the story because, yes, that is the same character that Captain Jack Sparrow is based off of, just so you all know. Jack has his own ship and wants to be part of it. Can't put a girl on the crew. Girls are bad luck on a pirate ship. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy, you can be part of the crew, but you're going to be a female in my quarters. She's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy back home in Ireland to keep her away from his wife. She's like, whatever, I'm a pirate, let's go. Let's put 2 and 2 together. Being a female in his quarters, she's eventually going to get pregnant, right? You cannot have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure it out that she's a girl and get angry with the captain. He'll be voted off. So he drops her off in Cuba. These are friends of mine. They'll help you with the baby. Come back later, we'll figure it out. So she goes and has the baby. She comes back with no baby. We have no idea what happened to this child. She's also dressed like a female. She doesn't care anymore about hiding her gender. This makes Jack pretty angry. And while she was away giving birth to his child, Jack captured another pirate crew that's down below deck. Anne's going to go flirting to make him even more mad because that's what Anne does. Guy number 3. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, so he did part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females dressed like guys on the same crew trying to be pirates. They become friends, possibly lovers, we'll never know for certain. Her name was Mary Read. So Mary becomes part of the crew, but the British find out where they are. They send their entire fleet of ships to take down 1 pirate ship. Anne and Mary are the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with their 1 bullet flintlocks. Obviously, they don't know how to run cannons. Their ship is going to get taken. As they're being arrested by the British, Anne looks at her captain and her beau, Calico Jack, and says, "You should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog." The word dog being very prominent on spirit boxes here. Obviously, see the 2 men that fought back so valiantly. The 2 ladies go in front, they reveal their gender. He doesn't care that they're girls, he's still going to hang them. They're still pirates. So they plead their bellies, meaning they're both claiming to be pregnant. You cannot hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail, delays the hanging. Dad is still here in the Charleston area with all of his Irish money, brings her back home, bails her out. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4 has 4 kids and dies at the age of 84. Yes, all of my stories end very abruptly with death. That's what we're doing there, folks. Mary Read, she dies in 1721, a year later in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Use your imagination. As far as spirit boxes, you can ask anything you want to. I did leave out 2 facts that I can prove. One of them being the name of Anne Bonny's parents, the father and the mistress. The other being the name of Calico Jack's ship. So I am going to steal 1 more minute of your time because I warned you all at the beginning of, obviously possible sickness during our time together. I have a quick story that is actually relevant to the one I just told you. Back in September, it was actually a little bit cooler than this. It wasn't as humid. I bring my group back here just like you guys were standing, and the kid next to me goes white as a ghost. I mean, ready to pass out, hit his head on the concrete. So I pick him up by his armpit before he does. His boyfriend picks his, the other armpit up on the other side of him, and we get him over to that wall over there, which is where we're going to end. And we sit him down, get him a bottle of water. He's feeling better. I then tell the story. It's important to know that they don't know what you guys now know about Anne Bonny. I tell the story. I send everybody out with their gear, and they pull me aside. We have to tell you something, Nick. Like, what's going on? We are 2 transgender males, meaning I had 2 females dressed as males on my tour all night, just like Anne and Mary in the story. And it made sense as to why one of them nearly passed out the minute we entered the space. These are the uncanny things why I give the warnings that I do. Psychics and mediums normally don't make it past the Pinckney Mansion site. I know y'all didn't see a lot of activity out of there, but I told you about some of the EMF readings that can happen there. I've had to call EMTs and paramedics way too many times. I am CPR trained because of that fact, because, again, the first time it happened, I went, oh snap, this is going to occur. So I am trained for that. I went, actually, literally the next day, they squeezed me in. So, but that story about the transgender males, I can't make that stuff up, guys. I'm a good writer, but I'm not that good. Like, there's no way I can make this stuff up. We're going to explore the space. As far as going to the front of the powder magazine, if you want to check it out, just stay out of the way of the other tours. the closer you get to those bushes and corners of the lot, obviously you're going to get a reading because they have electrical poles and the parking meters. Brandon, if you guys want to go over back to the cemetery and go check things out, you can. Just make sure there's no other tour there. Or if you two want to go to the front of the Powder magazine and get us some footage up there, you can. But we are going to go through this in about, if you start getting things that are exciting that might be relevant, come back and see me. I'll be chilling on the wall. Again, you guys all know what you're doing by now. You've been with me, I don't know how long, because I don't keep track of time. Probably around that 2-hour mark based on just the suggestive of what I've been doing out here every single night. But have some fun. Let me know what you're hearing. If you want to chit chat, come sit with me by the wall. Ask me questions. Do whatever you got to do. But we'll probably end this in about 5 to 8 minutes based on what's going on. I'll pretty much know right away based on the lack of excitement or super excitement that you guys are bringing to me if anything is actually active here tonight. This is a hit or a miss. So let's get to it. Turn up that REM pod. Let's see what we got going on. Unmute yours.
I heard 24.
24. Got nothing on that.
I had your link on.
There's a cat over there. As if we don't see enough of those.
Been here before because we took a picture and it says that they said if you take a picture of the cross, there's always a little dot. You remember that?
Yeah, because didn't you have it?
I took a bunch of them and I always had the
Didn't
dot.
they all have it?
Yeah. And they still across the street. I'm gonna go to the cemetery.
I can hear them.
preaching.
Hmm?
We needed a reserve for clergy when Granddaddy was preaching. Let me tell you how many times I went to churches and I had to park forever away.
Why did they make such a small parking lot for it?
For the church?
Where they're already the other house is built.
Mm. They're still over there? Are they moving?
I'm not hearing them.
Yeah, they're still over there. You can record other people. You don't have to just record me.